first I was a terror, bro. At first when I was still kind of hanging out with a bad crew and I was learning how to fight, I was a freaking terrorist on the street, man. Like bad attitude, eager to fight, learning how to fight, and anybody looked at me sideways and it was on.
What's going on, fight fans? We're back. Tone the line with Bare Knuckle Jer, Throwing Hands podcast. Today, joining me, we got a very special guest, another warrior on that list of Ironmen in the Bkfc. Somebody with no quit, that doesn't give up, technically hasn't been knocked down. Ryu Petersen. Let's go. Fighting out of Humboldt County. Looking forward to him to joining the podcast, and we definitely got some questions for Ryu. Here he is, joining the show.
What's up, Jared? How you doing, brother?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. How about you? Everything good?
No complaints over here, man. Weather's finally nice over here in Canada, so I don't have to escape to Cali.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny because it was super nice down there. Where I live, it's like it's a little bit cooler than down there, but we've got sun just came out. I got a lot of fog 'cause I live right on the ocean, so I get a lot of fog. So literally, like right as I'm at my gym right now. Right as I was pulling up, the fog broke. So that's nice.
Yeah, were you in Humboldt County?
Yeah, up in Humboldt, so I'm real far north. I'm probably like 200 miles, maybe not. Yeah, about 200 miles from Oregon.
Okay. Have Were you born and raised Humboldt?
No, so I was born in Mendocino, which is a county below this, and it's real similar though. I was born in Mendocino. I was adopted out of Mendocino, and then I lived right on the border of Humboldt and Mendo. So literally, I don't know, a mile from the county line. So we did all of our business up in Humboldt, and then when my folks split, they split when I was 5. I moved up to Washington. So I spent a lot of time growing up in Washington State, actually. So in between, in a town called Ferndale and a town called Bellingham, and right in between Vancouver, BC, and Seattle. So I spent a lot of time up in Canada, and I spent a lot of time down in Seattle, just doing whatever, you know.
I met a couple of your coaches or your trainers at the event, and they said they were from Vancouver. I was kind of surprised to hear that.
Yeah, it's kind of a trip because so a few years back, this is probably a little over 10 years ago or so, my wife and I moved right up there, right? I knew the area, and actually it almost had nothing to do with why I went up there. I was going to probably head that way anyways. It was just a gym. I found their gym online, knew that I liked that style. Because here in Humboldt, we had nothing at the time. There was no gyms. I mean, if there was, it was nobody that was striking. There's a lot of jiu-jitsu around here. So we moved up there, and every day, we actually lived in the States, but I would travel to Canada every day. I had a Nexus card. I don't know, you guys have Nexus over there?
Yeah, we have Nexus.
Yeah, so I got my Nexus and just traveled back and forth. It's funny, you talk about Nexus to anybody else that doesn't live on the Canadian border, they don't know what the hell you're talking about. But yeah, I had my Nexus, dude, and I would just go literally 6 days a week. You know, I was up there training.
That's crazy. Yeah, I was surprised to hear that. So what brought you to fighting in the first place, brother? Like growing up out in Cali, like how was it? How was the upbringing?
So here, when I was in California, it actually wasn't bad, right? I had 2 parents. We lived on a ranch. We were left alone. We lived in the middle of nowhere. Like, if you said the middle of nowhere, it'd be even the middle of that, right? There's nobody. The town I'm from is called Piercy, and there's probably maybe 100 people in the town. You don't see any of them. There's no town there. The only thing that we had was a post office, and we had like a cabinet shop that was attached to the post office. And one night, the cabinet shop left all their sawdust, and sawdust got too hot, burnt the whole thing down. So there's not even a post office there. And as you're leaving town, there's a single gas station, but that's about it. So life wasn't bad, you know what I mean? It was. This is back in the heyday of marijuana in this area too. This is like obviously I live in Humboldt County. I don't know if you know anything about it, but it's notorious for weed, right? It was like basically the weed capital of the world. So when I was a kid, my dad was growing, and everything was golden. Matter of fact, when I was real little, we had a helicopter, which is crazy, right? My dad he didn't work a regular job, but we had a helicopter. So he ended up crashing that one, and he got another one. He crashed that one too, and he's still alive. So. But then when my folks split, I moved up to Washington, and that's when things kind of got crazy, right? That's when my mom met a new guy, and my stepdad, he liked drinking, he liked doing coke. He's passed away since, and he sobered up before he passed. But that's when things got crazy, right? That's when you weren't sure what was going on in the house. You weren't sure what you were coming home to, right? It might be cool. Everybody might just be chill and drunk and relaxed, or they might be, coked up and mad about something and just smashing everything in the house. And that was kind of like, you just never knew what you were going to get. So it put me on guard for for violence or just violent tendencies or violent behavior. It put me probably fried my nervous system a little bit at the time, right? Because you're a kid, you're not sure how to protect yourself. You can't protect yourself as a kid, and just trying to figure out where you're at in the world with that. So it's a little bit tumultuous growing up in that kind of household. But then as I got older, they ended up splitting up too, and it was like just every bad thing. At one point, my stepdad stabbed my mom in the neck with one of those old phone antennas that was, the ones that would like pop out, stabbed her
Yeah.
in the neck, just all fighting, always getting into something. They were always fighting, always some type of violence going on in the house. And so when they split, that was like another crazy. My mom tried to commit suicide, all this crazy stuff, cut her wrist, all this just gnarly stuff. And that's when I basically was pretty well raised by myself as far as left to my own devices. My buddies and I just did what I wanted. I was always the baby of the group. I was always, 14, 15 years old, hanging out with dudes that were 18, 19, 20. Beyond that, looking back, what the hell were they doing hanging out with a kid? But I was game for whatever at the time, and I left school after eighth grade. So it came down to just, anywhere we went, my buddies were always getting in fights and things like that. And I remember being worried about it, right? Being worried about violence and being worried about getting in fist fights. And it got to the point where I just said, you know what, I gotta go for it. All 100% based off of insecurity and based off of just being worried where I stood with these guys. So I just started getting in fights every day, multiple times a day, multiple fights a day, one day getting a fight, next day getting another fight. It wasn't hard to find a fight if that's what you were looking for. And then I started going to the gym, right? Then I found the gym because that was a path that I knew I wanted to go. And then once I started going to the gym, at first I was a terror, bro. At first when I was still kind of hanging out with a bad crew and I was learning how to fight, I was a freaking terrorist on the street, man. Like bad attitude, eager to fight, learning how to fight, and anybody looked at me sideways and it was on. And then I started to realize, like, hey, this is foolish, man. This is truly foolish what I'm doing. So started to straighten out my path at that point. And that's pretty much too getting in tons of fistfights when I was young. I always had a love for kickboxing before bare knuckle, right? Before bare knuckle was legal. And so I figured, oh, okay, I'll get into kickboxing. But if bare knuckle was around back then, I'd have been on it just from day one because I've never been bothered by getting, thank God, never been bothered by getting punched by a bare fist.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So when you wandered into that gym, was it a kickboxing gym to start, or was it a Muay Thai gym?
Yeah, so with the very first gym that I started going to, it was actually they had karate, they had kempo, they had all these kind of things, but they offered a jujitsu program, and I started just doing that. And I was never really big into jujitsu, right? It was always, it kind of just, I just knew I wanted to start training, but it was never a puzzle I could put together. So then the next one I went to, it was a boxing and a Muay Thai gym, but I'd say it was probably more geared towards kickboxing, and he just didn't understand it, you know? But that's what I started with was boxing and basically kickboxing initially.
Yeah, I seen that you had some kickboxing fights. You had what, 6 fights first, and then you
Yeah.
had a bare knuckle fight before BKFC, right?
Yeah, just here locally, actually.
So that's what year was that in?
That was, I think that was 2024. So this was like going into when BKFC first popped off yesterday. Actually, obviously, happy birthday, BKFC. Yesterday was the eighth year anniversary. But
Yes. Happy birthday.
when that first hit, I told my wife, I was like, this is 100% for me. When they were advertising that and we watched it, I was like, that's for me. That is my game right there. And then obviously it goes into COVID and everything like that. COVID pops off, and I was gonna fight a kickboxing match. I think of June of 2020, and then COVID popped off. Everything gets canceled, pushed back, canceled, pushed back. So I keep trying to find fights that whole time. And here in Humboldt, it's very hard to get fights. And so initially on that card that it was a May 4th, 2024 card. Initially, I was looking for a kickboxing match, and then the promoter up at Bear River, John McGinnis is his name. He said, uh, "Hey, you want to?" He said something about bare knuckle, and I was like, "Bro, I'm game. So you get somebody to fight me bare knuckle, I'm game." And then of course, you go through people in, people out, people in, people out. But they had a guy that was down to do it, so we did it, and yeah, it was interesting. It's funny because when you fight on these big shows, here's something that's funny is that when you fight on big shows, you generally get along with your opponent, right? I don't have any opponents that I've had any real animosity with, and that's generally in the back, right? At BKFC, rarely do you see anybody beefing with each other. They're all fairly cordial with each other. But on smaller shows, everybody's always trying to just test nuts and act tougher than they are. But on this show that I fought on, this guy was like trying to act like a tough guy beforehand. Like I was sitting in the corner all by myself. He keeps pacing in front of me, and he's like, "Oh, he's scared. He's scared." I was like, I wasn't the least bit scaredy, dude. I'm gonna smash you.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that one, but I seen I think his name was Kristen Augusto or something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines.
So that's cool. And then You found
different.
BKFC after that.
Yeah, so basically, I looked at that as a as an end to BKFC, right? I knew that I had to get something. I knew I had to get a bare knuckle fight on my record to kind of open the door to get that, right? And like a day or two after the fight, I started talking with Nate Shook, and started going back and forth with Nate. And then it was a case of like he offered me a fight in July, and then that fell through. Offered me one in August, and then that fell through. And then he said later on, and I ended up going out to the tryout in Utah, and that was it, man. I got there. I was already in shape because here Nate had offered me a fight, and I'm thinking, all right, cool, I'm gonna fight. And I was just waiting for the phone call, so I was in good shape. So when I showed up to the tryout, there's guys that show up to this tryout that look like they didn't even think about it, right? They're just ready to, I don't know. We're doing laps, and they're standing off to the side with their hands on their knees, just toast. And it's like, dude, now's your time to show. If you want this opportunity, man, you better take full advantage of it. Do not get tired. Do not, Chris will call out
Yeah,
burpees, whatever. You're smashing burpees. You just go and do your burpees, show that you got heart, be front and center, listen, pay attention, listen to what's going on, and go from there.
there you go.
So
And
that
then
was it.
so
Oh, my apologies. Yeah, so
sorry,
I went
continue.
I went to the sorry, I spilled here. Making my go get your bucked up, folks.
Let's go.
I went yeah, just went to the tryout there, and I felt like that was it. And they were like, "Hey, you got to fight for us," and that's when I got on in November 2024.
Yeah, that's right. Godoy, Dan Godoy.
And Dan is
That
the
was
man
a
again. Go ahead.
yeah, nothing but respect on that one too. But yeah, that was, entertaining debut. That's the one you caught him with the big shot at the end of the second, right? And then he couldn't come out in the third, or the doctor stepped in.
Yeah, yeah. I think it swole Dan's eye shut. And again, that's another case here. Dan and I've told this story before, but we're at the doctor doing all our medicals, right? And we're in a waiting room, and I didn't even realize he was in there. It's fighters lined up on both sides, but he comes up and introduced himself. Totally good, totally cool dude. I like his family. We get along. Dan and I still talk. I still talk with most of my opponents, right? I still talk with Matt Thucka, Luckchuck all the time. Matt's fighting coming up here, BKB, but still talk with a lot of these dudes. They're good people. You know what I mean? We're into the same thing. And it's just all business when we're in there. But I've made good bonds with these people. You find out something about these guys that even their most intimate person doesn't know, right? You find out something about them that even their wife doesn't know. Not that I know them more intimately than their wives or anything like that. But what I'm saying is you find out a part of their spirit that nobody else knows unless you've been in a fight with them and you know what they're willing to put out, willing to give. It's a really interesting thing to understand that about somebody.
Yeah, no doubt. And yeah, you're right. Just because you're opponents doesn't mean you have to be enemies. Like, you guys have common interests. I'm sure that you could be friends with a lot of these guys. That you guys probably have a lot in common, right? Yeah, that
Yeah.
Suck a Luck Chuck fight too, unreal. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised to see him fight in a different promotion because I like him too. But I thought that was another great fight between the two of you guys. You got to So in the first one though, you had those wolf shorts on, brother. Were you sweating in those? Because I seen they didn't make a return after that.
No, I didn't. It was funny. I got comments from everybody on those wolf shorts, dude. Those were dope. And it's funny. Everybody had something to say about them. No, I just went with basically it was I was thinking like a Conan theme, right? I've always done a theme for each fight. I've always done something unique and something different for each fight. Almost like old school Macho Man, how we came out with a different outfit each time. So I did the wolf for him. I did the neon green for Suck a Luck Chuck. Dustin, I did the ECW theme. I did the ECW theme. That other one, I did the Ryu theme, and then this one here, I did a Terminator one. So I've
Yeah.
always had a unique. I always wanted something different, right? I always wanted to offer something different. Shoes that matched the shorts, everything. Shirt matched everything else.
Mm. So yeah, you've been in some good ones, man. You've been in some real good fights. Like even the Suck a Luck Chuck fight, even your debut fight. I feel like at the end of the rounds too, you really aim to put a stamp on things. Like, you usually end with a big shot. Is that like a strategy of yours? Because it seems like at the end of the first or second round, that's when you KO'd or TKO'd Dan. We couldn't come back up because of that fury. And then even the Suck a Luck Chuck fight, it's like big shots at the end of each round just to let the judges know. Is that something you think about ahead of time coming into these fights?
Not at all, actually. It's funny. I just watched the Suck a Luck Chuck fight yesterday. Actually, I was showing some of my students this fight, and that's my favorite fight. I love that. Matt is a dog. I love Matt, dude. All love to Matt, 100%. But that was at the end of the second round with Matt too. As I land a left hook. It's the same left hook I landed the first one on Daniel Keepers. It's just whip it around, right? Slip. and whip. It's not on purpose that I'm putting a stamp on the end of the round. It's just I like aggression. I think I figure this is a fight. You're there to fight, right? You're not there to. I'm not a point scorer. I look at myself honestly. If I was to say, if you were to say, hey, what is BKFC? I feel like you could show them any one of my fights and be like, this is the product right here. This is what you're getting when you watch BKFC. I'm not a point fighter. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to wait around. I'm going to push the action. I'm going to bring aggression. Whether you like it or not, I'm going to bleed. I have a 100% cut rate. I don't pull any punches on that one as far as like, a lot of people take pride in not being cut. I don't necessarily take pride in being cut, but I've got a sharp face, right? I've got sharp cheekbones, sharp eyes. I got a hell of a cut right there from Daniel. But I am what the BKFC product is. I'm technical. I'm fast. I'm good head movement, good footwork. I like to get in there and scrap. And yeah, no, my game plan though is not necessarily to end up anything in the round. It's just to land, to make them miss, make them pay for it. That's generally what I like, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're putting on exciting fights, man, and definitely at the end of each round, it's like it's not boring by any means. It's always a furious shots. Guys are pretty much in danger from bell to bell. So we
Good,
appreciate that as fans, man.
wonderful,
And
good
then
to hear that. Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
so then you find yourself in the main event after that one, right? That's the then you
yeah,
Dustin Peg was your next one.
yeah, yeah.
That
So that was like, yeah. Go ahead.
sorry, bro. That was an absolute war. Were you surprised that he got up after that shot in the first, man? Because it looked like it was done.
You know what? I wasn't. I kind of figured that Dustin was going to get up. I kind of figured he was going to get up, but I didn't know how much further it would go with the eye that way, right? And I didn't realize how he told me after that he couldn't see, right? I didn't realize how bad he couldn't see after until him and I talked. And Dustin is a great dude too. You know what I mean? Dustin's the type dude. I'd give him a Christmas card, no joke. And
Yeah.
but it's that was a a crazy thing because here it was like I was waiting for a fight. I fought Matt in January, and I just kept bugging about a fight and bugging about a fight. And I had a management company at the time, and I just felt like they weren't really doing much to get me fights. I felt like they weren't keeping me busy, and I figured I could have fought in May or January, March, in April or May or any of that kind of stuff. I just kept bugging. And one day I'm at my house. I was teaching a private lesson at my house, and I get a phone call, and this was like a Thursday or something like that. And they're like, "Hey, we got you an opponent." I was like, "Who?" And they're like, "Dustin Peg." I'm like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." Like that's awesome. What a good solid dude. Got a good name, everything like that. And obviously, I'm going in B side of that fight, but I felt like that. What an awesome fight. And even then, I felt like Andrew Glenn could have let it keep going. You know,
Yeah.
and too, there's a point after I caught Dustin with that punch, and of course, too, we caught each other with a punch at a right hand at the same time, right? Boom, they just happened to catch at the same time, but that punch that I threw on him, I had drilled that punch by myself 1,000 times before the fight, just over and over and over, and it just happened to land. And yeah, what an awesome fight. That was like that's one of those fights too. I just was talking to who that was talking to, maybe Gator. Yeah, I was talking to Gator from BKFC Reddit and talking about that fight was like full RPMs, right? We just went at each other, and that was good.
Yeah, because it only went 2 rounds, but it seemed like so much more, and it had everything too, right? Like you each had your shots, and like it was just a fury of like once you had him hurt in the first, he came out swinging for the fences too, right? After you see him,
Yeah.
so it was a highly entertaining, epic fight, and yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. It did seem like it could go on, you know what I mean? It did seem like it could have kept going. A little bit of a surprising stop there, but I wanted to ask you how you felt about it. You seemed okay with it after the fact, but as a fan, you always want more too.
Yeah, so I know that the time to protest is not to throw a fit in the ring. You know what I mean? I'm a man about things. I'm not going to be a little baby. In the back, even when I walked in the back, there's people that worked with the company that even said, "Hey, they stopped that a little early. They should have let that go." And no, no, it's no district. It's not Dustin's fault at all. You know what I mean? But I feel like they Andrew could have let it go. I didn't hit the deck. You could have let me take. I mean, I'm not going to take a knee, right? I'm never going to take a knee unless somebody puts me on a knee. right? I'm never going to just willingly take a knee, because some people after were like, well, why don't you just take a knee? It's like, that's not what's going through your head. When you're in there and you're fighting, you're not thinking, how can I escape this? You're thinking, how can I kill this guy that's hitting me? At least in my mind, right? Might be some people that are thinking, how do I get away? But I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that's thinking, how can I put my fist through your face for punching me? That's the, you hit me. I just want to kill you. I don't want to, and I'm not mad about it. That's just the objective. And, funny thing is too, because somebody mentioned, like, I punched Andrew Glenn in the belly after, when he stopped it, and what
Yeah,
people were like,
I
oh,
did
well,
see that.
clearly you were. It's like, no, what happened was Dustin was leaning on me, and I'm looking down, and I could see his black shorts, and Glenn came in, and I could just see the black part of his pants. Boom, and I hit him in the belly, and I looked up, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he says, "You're done." I said, "Why?" But I said, like, what the hell are you doing? I'm wondering why the hell the guy jumped in front of there. But Dustin caught me with a good punch, but it would have been good. I think that you know, give me an 8 count, give me whatever. I don't know, but it is what
Yeah,
it is. I'm a man of honor. I'm not gonna throw a fit. And I was honored to have the fight, honored to shed blood in that building. I'm a big, huge wrestling mark from growing up watching ECW. And two, I felt like that fight put my name on the BKFC map. Right, tons of people came up. David Feldman started addressing me by name after that fight, to where I'm not just some random dude.
yeah, definitely. You put the world on notice with that one. Like I said, that Suckalukchuk fight though was unreal as well. Yeah, you gave the RIP to Sabu after that one.
Yeah, yeah, exactly too. I had it even on my banner. My banner's up in the hallway here. We got the RIP Sabu right there because he had passed. Hulk Hogan passed away the day before that fight as well. But with the Suck Electric fight, I feel like that fight doesn't get enough credit because Feldman wasn't there that night. Knucklemania was the week after that, right? So they had most of the media out there in Philly for Knucklemania, and I feel
Yeah,
excuse me, Matt and I, we didn't get fight of the night or anything like that, and I feel like we definitely that was fight of the night. I feel like that fight stole the show, and that was a scrap. And two,
yeah,
Matt hit
no,
me with that
no
right
doubt,
hand.
man.
And Matt hit me with that right hand in that fifth round, dude. My jaw was sore for like 2 months after that. That was a good punch.
Yeah, that fight was unreal. That fight was unreal, and anyone who hasn't seen that should definitely go check that out. Cause
Yeah,
yeah, that was a banger. I feel like that fight was like, all right, this is a perfect guy to get in there with Peg, and you know what I mean. He probably saw that and was like, yeah, that's. I thought I thought it put some eyes on you anyway, but you're probably right. I seen you had some pictures with the Knuckle Maniacs. He's another big wrestling guy. What do you think of Cody?
I love Cody, dude. I love Cody, and that's actually funny enough. Cody and I fought on the Long Beach show when I fought Dan. Cody and I fought on that show, and then when I fought when I fought Matt, Cody came up and talked to me after that, and he's like, "Hey, man, Cody was in the crowd there that night, so him and I started a relationship. Then we started talking and going from there. I love Cody. We fought out in Philly, at the Dustin when Dustin and I fought out there. Cody's been a good dude to me. His trainer Tyler has been fantastic. So that's generally actually whenever we travel, we end up together, just in a crew. Either going out to eat together or going out, just whatever we're doing, we're rolling together for the most part. It's been a good relationship and a good bond. So shout out to Cody and Tyler.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah. No, I seen some pictures with you guys and then you were talking about wrestling and it's like, oh, it's hard not to bring up the Knuckle Maniac. I could see that you guys had some kind of a relationship. I seen you at both times in Palm Desert. I saw pictures with you guys together, so I figured I'd bring that up.
Yeah. Yeah, Cody is a good dude. And too,
So,
like I said, when we were out in Philly, we linked up and all that kind of stuff too. So
yeah, right on, man. Who's your favorite wrestler all time?
Psycho Sid and the Ultimate Warrior. Yeah,
Okay, Psycho
Have
Sid.
you Yeah, you've got the Ultimate Warrior right there, the logo right there. I don't have a Psycho Sid logo on me, but I would get one. Gladly get one. But yeah, Psycho Sid's my all-time favorite, but Ultimate Warrior is right there.
Yeah, you gotta like the Warrior, man. I know other wrestlers didn't really like wrestling with him, but when he came out, he was the hype. When I was like 5, I fucking loved the
Hell
Ultimate
yeah.
Warrior.
Yeah, same. And not only that,
Psycho
it's because go ahead.
Psycho Sid, was he Sid Vicious as well?
Yeah. Sid Justice,
Yeah,
Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid. Yeah, I love that dude. He was just massive, 313 pounds, 6'9", smashed everybody with the power bomb. But when for Ultimate Warrior, it was like later on when he was out of wrestling. I loved him when I was a kid. I had the wrestling buddy when I was a kid, but as I got older, he started putting out like the injections of inspiration, the speeches that he would give, and a lot of people hate on the guy, but hey, I think he's a man of his word as far as he says that I was his, whether people like him or not. right? He wasn't looking to make friends. He was looking to be in the business. And I don't necessarily think that that's the best way to grease a groove, but he spoke the truth, and that's all there is to it. And I would listen to his injections of inspiration before sparring when I lived up outside of Canada, because we had Monday, Wednesday sparring, and you didn't know what you were getting into, but it was always hard sparring, man. It was gnarly sparring. So I'd have to listen to the stuff to pump myself up before going there. But you'd be more spooked to go to sparring than you would for a fight. No joke. You knew what you were getting into at the gym. This fight's not going to be anywhere near that. So that was a good thing.
I'm gonna have to check that out. I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah, check out the Injections of Inspiration by the Ultimate Warrior. They're awesome
Yeah, I'll have to YouTube that up.
for sure.
But anyway, so after Peg, moving along, find yourself Palm Desert. That was against another debut. I think it's Anktar. It's a hard by.
It's a very hard name to pronounce. He calls himself ET, like the alien ET. I know that. That's how he
Yeah.
introduced himself to us. So
Okay.
initially,
So that was his debut fight for BKFC, but that was also Big John's debut in there.
yeah,
So that that was a questionable one as well, right? And I was even thinking about after he was landing some shots and you went backwards and you grabbed a hold of the rope to keep you up. And I was thinking, I'm like, if say you didn't grab the rope and you just kind of fell to the ground a bit, would that have went differently? Would Big John have called it? He probably would have gave you a count. Yeah, that was a confusing one, brother. I'm glad that you got to I got to see you again in Palm Desert and see you actually perform, because I feel like I got a little bit ripped off as a fan. You know, I was excited to see you fight, and then that was quick, and I think that was a mistake, and I think a lot of people agree with me on that.
yeah, and thing is too is I've spoke with Big John. Matter of fact, I spoke with Big John just after this fight here. Him and I had a talk in the hallway in the arena there. It's funny enough too is he's the one that checks your nails as you're getting to the ring, and I just say, hey, what's up, John? As I'm walking down to the ring. And I just want to let John know I have no hard feelings towards him. I don't have any animosity towards him. I think John knows what he's doing. He said I had a twitch in my left eye. I'm gonna say this: I was 100% fine. I was good. You could see I can take a punch. I can take a shot. Nobody's ever seen me, on necessarily Queer Street, where Dustin probably hit me with the hardest punch in the temple. Just wobbled, never dropped me, anything like that. I got nothing but respect for John. So I don't want to. I almost don't even want to say anything negative about it, because I think that him and I spoke and shook about it, and he gave me a hug, and he said the same thing that you said, like, hey, I'm glad to see you got to perform. But I do think that most people watch that and go, what the hell was that? I think even my opponents probably watch that and don't go, okay, that's how I finish him, or whatever they might think, or okay, I think that people see that and go, something ain't right, or whatever it might be. But I was fine after. We have the concussion protocol that we have to do. We have all that stuff that we have to deal with in the back. I got in the back, passed everything, no problem. Yeah, it is what it is. The whole thing felt like a bad dream, honestly, to go in back to train all that time, to do everything like that, and then to have that happen. You're just kind of scratching your head. And that was another case too. He was actually I was not supposed to fight him initially. I was supposed to fight a fellow that was coming out of the UFC, and then that switched up. So I don't know what happened. I don't know why the guy pulled out, but I haven't seen his name. He hasn't fought for BKFC ever now, but it was going to be a UFC guy's debut. And maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks out or a month out, ET took in. He took the spot.
Yeah, no disrespect to Big John. When things are happening in real time too, he's trying to do his job, protect the fighter. But yeah, I don't think he should have saw a couple of your fights and then realized, like, he's got a lot more to give.
Funny enough too, he said that to me. He's like, I know who you are. I've seen you take a punch. I know who you are. So, part of me was like, hey, that's cool. Big John knows who I am. You look at all that, this guy's refed everybody. Fedor, Sakuraba, Tito, that, who's list. But it would have been nice to continue, because I was fine.
Yeah. But anyway, moving on from that, you're back in Palm Desert just recently, May 22nd. Another opponent change too, right? You were supposed to have Darren Whitney on this one. What happened there?
Yeah.
Like I know that I've heard from some other fighters that like medicals and stuff like that in California could be kind of tricky around certain things. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's true
to
or
be
not.
honest, yeah, it is. It's very stringent in California, right? California requires a lot of you. It just is, it's funny that, yeah, I don't know. California is obviously a goofy state. It's the most beautiful state that there is, if you ask me, as far as the natural beauty. But when we start getting into politics and bureaucracies, it's the goofiest place that there is. Something I want to point out is that when I fought ET, he had missed weight, right? He missed weight. And so when you miss weight, you lose 20% of your purse, the guy that missed the weight. Well, you split that with the state. You get 10 and the state gets 10. And I'm like, why do you guys get 10? You don't have to fight them. They're like, well, that's just the way it's always been. It's like, why would a guy lose 20% of his purse to the guy he has to fight and the state gets 10% of it? That doesn't make any sense. So then the
Yeah.
next day he missed weight again. Now they put in a rehydration clause, the California state does. And the rehydration clause goes to both of us, right? Even though I made weight, I still get a rehydration clause that I can't weigh over a certain amount. He obviously he's not supposed to either. Right? He missed it again by, you know, I don't know, eight more pounds or something like that. So he was ridiculously off weight. So he lost another percentage of his purse of that. Now, I don't know if the state took any of that, whatever. I didn't talk to anybody about that. But just the fact that the state gets 10% of a 20% deduction on somebody's purse for somebody that they don't have to fight, you know what I mean? This guy that was in there, he didn't have to fight whoever, the guy that weighs more, whatever. So I don't know what as far as I don't know what Darren had going with the state and with medicals and things like that. Maybe he was all good. Maybe they're just expensive because I see that they did raise the price on medicals. I think the first time I was licensed in California, it was like $900. This time it was $1,600. You know what I mean? So you have to go do all that kind of stuff. It's expensive. You have to do MRI. You get an artery scan of your brain. You go through a lot of crap just to be licensed in California for them to nitpick you. So I don't know. I haven't spoke with Darren. I don't really know anything with that. Then there was another fight that was offered in between that as well that we signed and it didn't go through. I don't know if I can mention it, but that would have been a good fight. That would have been a fun fight. That was signed, and then Daniel Keepers came up after that one.
Yeah, keepers, man. Were you expecting him to be that game? 'Cause he looked pretty good in there for somebody, debuting. He was definitely a game opponent.
Yeah, he's had a lot of fights too, though. You know what I mean? I think that people technically, I mean, he hasn't had any more bare knuckle than me, but he's had more fights than I have, just actual fights, right? He's had I think he had 9 pro MMA. He had quite a long amateur MMA career as well. I figured he was game. I really don't watch too much footage, but I watched like 15, 20 seconds people. And I saw he was game. I saw he could take a shot. I saw that he was a solid dude. And he was a good dude when I met him too. Real nice guy, pleasant guy, not a prick at all. So, hey, all love to Daniel. He's out there doing his thing. He lives out in Las Vegas, just making his fight dreams come true. So that's good. And it was interesting because it becomes a puzzle each time you're fighting somebody, right? He can make weight. Obviously, he made weight, good for him. But being 6'2" and having an 80-inch reach, that's crazy, right? That's crazy. So that was quite a bit of a puzzle that we have to figure out, and we did. But it's just interesting.
Yeah, and you know what? He looked good, but to be honest, you were in control of it pretty much. Like, you got the only knockdown in the first round. So right away, you're off to a pretty good start. And I feel like as the pace went on, I feel like it picked up in the third, and then in the fourth and the fifth, and then even like to the very end, you're pushing the envelope, pushing the pace in the fifth round, still landing big shots, still coming. At that point, it was kind of like he'd taken over the fight. So yeah, no surprise. It was a unanimous decision. But like going off like the last fight and having some bad luck there, is there anything going through your mind before? Like, were you confident going into that decision? Do you think I have it in the bag? Or were you kind of like, oh, I hope I don't get fucked by the judges?
But what's funny is everybody around me that lives in my area, they're always like, "Hey, I hope you get it." They think that BKFC has something to do with the refs, and it's like, no, 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 that's state, that's BKFC, two organizations. Otherwise, these are working against each other here. But no, I felt good about the decision. I felt like it was going to be that. I would have liked obviously to finish him. You always want to finish a fight, but it's before the fight that everything's going through your mind, right? You're cool on the outside, but everybody on the inside, I don't care what anybody says, you're feeling it, right? You're talking yourself through everything that's going on. But that's part of the pressure. That's part of what you do as a fighter. You have to understand that this is part of the game. If you're not good up here, you're done. You're cooked, man. If you can't get a hold of your self-talk, if you can't get a hold of what you have going on and understand what's going to come out once you're in that ring, once the pressure applies, if you don't know what you have in here and in here, it's a hell of a place to figure it out in those ropes, man. That's a hell of a place to say this is it and have it come about. So it's before the fight. You're talking to yourself, right? In my head, the pressure is not real. One, right? Pressure is fake. It's all put on myself. I'm not bothered by the crowd. I don't care. It's a massive crowd, right? I hardly take it in, to be honest with you. It could be one person, it could be no people, but there's massive crowd there, and it's cool because you can hear it, but it's not something I sit and look around and go, wow, this is crazy. I'm thinking of the mission. The mission is the fight. So in your head, you're going, okay, I can't lose this one. I can't lose this one because that takes a big hit to my stock. That's 3 in a row. That's 3 skids in a row. I can't have that. Especially after that last one. That really changed my mindset of like, you can't have that happen again. That was ridiculous. So you have these weird pressures that you're putting on yourself, that you're talking yourself through in your mind. And then as you're going out, obviously I've got my team with me, and these are all things that we spoke about and things that we worked through. And then when you get out there, I just know that nature will take over once I'm out there. Nature takes over. Everything that I want to do, I've never been one for massive game planning. I've always been one that's a hyper focus and wing it, right? What I see open will open. I see everything in there, which is crazy. It's like the amplification of what we have going on is turned up. I could hear David Feldman talking in the corner. I could hear Chris and Sean Wheelock talking when something would happen in the fight and it would get exciting. I could hear them talking. I could hear my corner. I could hear his corner. You can hear all these things, right? You obviously hear the crowd, but it's like you have something to focus on. I can see Daniel. Daniel's now in slow motion all of a sudden. Whoever's in front of me is generally in slow motion somewhat. I can see what they're doing for the most part. And everything else gets turned up volume to 11. It's a trip. It's a trip, right? Your body goes into a weird, I don't know if we want to say trance or just a focus, right? A primal focus. And that's what you get to do. And you just know that nature will take over. What you've drilled over and over and over will come out once you're in there. You know what I mean? The hook that landed, the hook that dropped him. It's not like I thought, throw this hook right now, right? It's just nature goes boom and throws it. Miss that uppercut. That would have been nice. But yeah, nature just runs its course, and I just know that's what I have built into me, and that's what's going to come out.
Yeah, well, it was exciting. I was glad to see you get it too, because yeah, you know, couple bad calls, but yeah, that last one, it's like, man, you can't have that happen too many times. But now, what would you like next? Now are you just gonna take whatever comes your way? I UFC Birmingham just happened. I don't know if you've seen the Tierney Franco fight.
Yeah, yeah. That's a killer fight.
Lido was saying too. He was saying 165-pound welterweight division is the most exciting division in BKFC right now. I know that was his weight class.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think it is. It is the most exciting. It's also too. We've got a plethora of just murderers in that division, right? It's packed with killers. It's the hardest division in my opinion because we have so many dudes that are highly skilled, that are hungry, right? You could have a main event of a 165 every month if you wanted to, and have it be good. So what I'm looking at is I'm just trying to go up, right? I'm trying to go up in the rankings. I see BoxRec just updated their rankings, and they put me up in North America, right, as 14th right now, which is crazy to me, right? Some people are like, oh, it should be higher or whatever. Well, listen, I understand why it is what it is. I want to go higher, but here's the thing: I'm from a town that's like 100 people, and to look at that and see, these are the top dudes in the world, and my name's in that conversation. I'm trying to go up, but that's still, it blows my mind, right? I'm not gonna have. I don't lack gratitude. I'll tell you that. I don't lack gratitude for this. So that's what I would like. I would like to just keep moving up. I'd like to keep fighting people above me would be nice, right? Fighting those guys that are up above me, it's all killers above me. So let's go, right? I've never been one for calling out, but I do like the challenge of it all. This is fantastic. This is great. This is exactly what you want, man. You want to be in the mix with the top dudes in the world. That's great. What else could you ask for? That's a dream come true. And then to eventually, hopefully, become that top guy, right? You want to become that top dog. You want to put in that work to get there.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a gang of killers, and just to be mentioned among them, it's a big accomplishment for sure. Definitely something to be proud about. Yeah, that Rico Tierney fight, it was kind of one-sided, but or sorry, yeah, Franco, he's a problem. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think about Bryce Henry, Julian Lane coming up June 4th? How do you see that one going?
That's a good fight. I applaud both those dudes for getting in there because both are dangerous guys, and I applaud Julian for jumping in there versus Bryce, because Bryce is dangerous. Bryce is a real dangerous dude, and Julian probably didn't have to take that fight. He could have probably rallied for a rematch with Dustin after that and sat on the sidelines. So good for him for jumping and then taking a hard fight, not taking a back seat. That's what I mean when I say this is, he's living his dream too. I'm sure, just along with Bryce, he's living his dream as well. And to be eager to go and keep getting at it. That's exactly what you want. I don't know. That's the thing is Bryce can come out real cool and calculated. Maybe piece Julian up. Julian can land a bomb, and that might be it. You really kind of a coin flip of a fight, but we'll see. That's a good card as well. That's a stacked card with 12 fights on it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that card is stacked.
Yeah.
Even had it had a I know the Rambo fight fell off of that because but even without that, like it's pretty stacked top to bottom. And yeah, I was saying something similar because Elaine didn't have to take that fight, right? He had a great fight with Peg. Talked about the rematch there, but respect to him, he's a fighter. The name came across his table, so to speak, and he was game for it, opposed to being like a
Yep.
gatekeeper and saying, I'm not going to give him his shot. So, yeah, you got to respect Julian for that. That was a great fight with him and Dustin as well. Do you think the judges got that one right?
I did. I did. I did think that was Dustin's fight there. You know what I mean? I thought that Dustin controlled. I think that, trying to look back, I think it was the third round that Julian did real well versus that round, right? I think it was the third or something like that. Third, and there was another part in there. I do think that it did go the right way, and I think that Dustin fought real smart. And when it got into the exchanges, I didn't think he had to exchange with Julian. There was a time when he did, and that's when Julian thrives, right? When you sit and bang with Julian, that's when that's where he excels. That's obviously let him bang. That's his thing.
That's right. That's right. I agree with you, and I feel like Dustin, sorry, landed a real big shot at the end, and I feel
Yeah,
like that was enough to sway the judges there too. So
that was in the right at the end of the sixth, right? Where during the sudden death
yes,
round, right? Yeah, and that's the
yeah,
only round that matters at that point. That's what some people didn't catch on
yeah,
to. Now they're no longer judging 1 through 5. They're only judging 6 right now, and that he did land that big shot at the end. That's correct.
yeah. It was a great fight.
That was a hell of a fight.
So yeah, I could see you getting a big name again or getting a shot. Would you be interested in a rematch with Dustin?
Dustin and I spoke about this. I think he even said this. Unless it's for a title, I think that we're just going to be buddies. Unless it's for a title, right? But I'm sure if they put enough money out there, we would. I really like Dustin. I chat with Dustin pretty often, to be honest with you. So I'm sure we would, right? I guarantee he would too. He'd do it for fun too. And there's no animosity there. It's just what we like doing. And he's one of those ones too. My wife and I were talking about this the other day. Is that he's one of those ones that he's just a nice guy, good dude, right? But he's got the heart of a killer, sweetheart of a guy, but he's got the heart of a killer. And when you're across from the ring from him, you feel his energy. You know what I mean? You're like this dude's game. I think Mike Tyson talked about this type of stuff too. Some nights you get in the ring and you can look at somebody and you're like, I got him. Some nights you look and you say, all right, we're in for a long night. Dustin was one of those ones where I looked over and I'm like, he's ready to rock. Let's go. You know what I mean? And he's cool, collected too, calm and collected too. But you knew that when you're getting in there with him, he's not afraid of you. You know what I mean? He's not afraid of this, and that's exactly how it should be.
The crazy thing about that fight too is it was in the small ring, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and that's people don't
Yeah,
realize that ring is, small, but it's like 1.5 to 2 steps back, and you're on the ropes. People don't realize how small that ring is. It might look small on TV, and it might look small when you're standing on the outside of it, but when you're inside of that thing, that is small. Like I could do probably 2 broad jumps across, if that. It's from the scratch line. It's literally 1.5 hops backwards, and you're on the ropes. So you got to be aware of that.
yeah. It makes for an interesting fight. Do you prefer the bigger ring or the smaller ring, or is it all the same to you?
It's probably kind of all the same in a sense. You can tell the difference, right? But then there's times where you don't notice it at all. Like when I fought Godoy, I felt like my pressure was strong enough that I didn't notice that the ring was so much smaller, right? And then with Dustin, I can't say that I felt, just at the end of the round, obviously he had me on the ropes and that's about it. So you really don't notice that part of it. You just have to be aware of where it's at. And so in this one here, you know what I mean? I think you're much more aware of how much space that you do have when you're in the 22-foot ring. You do recognize that there is more space, that's for sure. But it really doesn't matter to me whichever one it is. I'll take whichever one.
Fair enough. Yeah. So yeah, that was a crazy fight, man. Feldman, guys, he doubled your pay. I don't know, but that was, whenever he does that, he's happy. He's happy with the way he went. This last one, we were at in Palm Desert. It was kind of strange that they canceled the post-fight press conference. Do you think that, like, I heard I know flights could be tricky out of there. I've had to deal with certain circumstances before. At the last one, I had to go right to the airport, catch a flight. Do you think they were just upset though? Do you think maybe, they didn't get the fight they wanted and the crowd was a little restless? Do you think that had anything to do with it?
You know what? I'm not positive, but I was in the back where the press conference usually is, right? I was standing back there because in your contract, it's like you have a mandatory press conference. You have to be there. And as I was going back there, I was talking with some people, and they were like, "Oh no, we're leaving to go catch a flight right now." Right? Some of them were flying out of L.A., so they had to go get in a van, and literally they had their gear with them, they had their bags with them. They were literally flying to L.A. So when Feldman was leaving, I saw him going out the door right there, and he came over, gave me a big hug, and he seemed like he was in a hurry. So maybe they were in a hurry. I'm not certain. He didn't seem to be in a bad mood, but I do know that I was talking with quite a few of the guys. They say, "Yeah, we're trying to catch a flight right now. We have to fly to L.A. or get a ride to L.A." to fly out. So potentially that was the case. There's something too, it was really cool. I felt honored because in the hallway, Feldman always gives his speech, right? Everybody sees clips of this online, where him telling them to fight your ass off, that don't take a knee, don't turn your back, don't be a coward, right? We're here to fight.
Yeah.
He's in the hallway giving this speech, and he finishes his speech, giving that, pumping everybody up. He shakes a couple hands, he turns and looks at me, and he gives me a hug. He's like, "I know I don't got to tell you any of this." And I felt like, hey, that's good. You know what I mean? It makes me feel good in that place to realize that I'm recognized for what I have to offer and what I have to give. That, hey, I feel like I'm an honorable fighter. I'm not the type of guy that's going to turn his back. I'm the type of guy that's always going to bring action, always exciting. I may not be I'm not a type of guy that mouths off. I don't run my mouth, so maybe that's a little bit of a detriment to me. But I'm of the mind like, hey, I hardly got to say anything. I think that my action sells the fight itself. I'm not that mouthpiece for that. I'm not a one to jabberjaw.
Yeah. And you know what? Actions do speak louder than words. It's always good to get that boss's recognition, the pat on the back. You're doing a good job. We can rely on you. Like you said before, you've never said no. You always bring the fight, never been knocked down. So, and you're not afraid to bleed either, you'll take it to give it. So yeah, I'm sure you're the boss's dream. That being said, what would you like have any of these cards excited you like coming up? They got the BKFC Bruise Cruise on the boat. Cards like Italy. Like what's like a dream fight for you in terms of just venue?
That would be rad to do a go overseas, right? That would be cool. That's like to be able to go to Italy or to go to Europe. That would be rad. Go to England, basically the home place, the birth of bare knuckle fighting, right? They've got a rich history of that. Just to go over there and have a fight in that aura would be awesome. Italy, home of gladiators. What an awesome thing! That would be fantastic to go do. To go do that. That sounds wonderful to me. To be honest, Italy, England, anywhere in Europe, any of those cards, that would be rad. I know that Feldman had said something about being in Moscow maybe in the next 12 months. That would be rad. I'd love to go to Russia. Yeah, that'd be ideal to travel a little bit. It's cool. It's cool as much as I don't like the aspect of actually traveling, right? Getting there. Once you're there, it's cool. But I hate the being on the flight. I do hate that part.
Oh yeah, bro. On going to California this time. The time before that, we had bad flights flying out of the LAX. We had to do a lot of driving. So this time we caught a connecting flight into Palm Springs. Well, we got delayed several hours, and we ended up sleeping outside, sleeping on a bench, waiting for the airport to open TSA, going sleeping on the floor in the airport, trying to catch the next flight. That didn't happen. So you know what? At the end of the day, it was all worth it, brother. Just to come see the BKFC, watch you fight, like it was worth it. I would do it again. I would sleep outside if I had to. So you know what I mean?
Nice.
It's definitely got the pros and cons, but and the wife checked it out too. She didn't even complain. I just told her, yeah, we're sleeping on the floor. Here's the blanket.
And that Palm Springs airport is nice compared to LAX. LAX is just absolute trash, dude. I cannot stand flying in there. So that's one of those ones that's just overcrowded. You can't get a cab, you can't get an Uber. You have to take a bus to go off site to do all this stuff. That is trash. But I generally have problems with flying too because I live in an area that's we got a really small airport, and the airport was built, I want to say, back in like World War II times because of the fog. We've got ridiculous fog here, so they built it for pilots to test going in and out of the fog here. As a matter of fact, always on my way home, I always get delayed. We have a stop in San Francisco. You have to spend hours in San Francisco, which every single time I have, and then this time we fly here, we get to where we should be landing, and instead we have to go to Medford, Oregon to land to refuel because we couldn't land because of the fog. And then by the time we came back, the fog had cleared up. So it's always a pain to travel here as well. So I understand what you're getting at, man. It's just one of those things that the traveling aspect sucks, but the being there is fantastic.
Yeah, you can't pass up the atmosphere. But you're right.
Yeah,
The Palm Springs airport was good. Even with all that, with the connecting flight, I loved it. It was super easy getting the rental, getting in and out. It was a breeze.
yeah. Everything is like right in those few buildings that they have right there, right? I think it's like the buildings are like a half a circle there, and everything is just easy to pop in, easy to pop out, get in and out of there fast.
So you mentioned your wife a couple times. I see you got a couple sons, I believe. How does the
Yes,
fam
sir.
feel about your bare knuckle career?
My wife and I have been together a long time. I think we started, I think we're going on like 21 years together. So she kind of knew what she was getting into with this. And maybe she didn't imagine she'd be with a bare knuckle guy, but I was kickboxing when we first got together. So I think that they all accept it, right? The only thing is, I'll say my oldest boy, Rambo, his name's Rambo. I got a Rambo shirt on right there. But my oldest son, Rambo, he gets a little bit rattled after the fights. I can tell when he sees my face. But I just don't know. This is what dad asked for. This is what dad wants to do. I'm not hurt. You know what I mean? And it always looks like, obviously, here you can see I'm not even, my face is not bad. Everything's good now. We're just, a week and a half removed or something. So it's pretty good. And I think they're fine with it. It's a unique thing, but they're all on board. They're wonderful to me.
Yeah, it looks like you've healed up pretty good. I was
Yeah.
gonna mention that too. But also, I've been seeing you. Do you guys got a farm? I see you got some
Yeah.
chickens. You gave me some insightful wisdom about possums on there. I seen your little possum clip. I didn't know they ate
Yeah.
ticks. Man, maybe we need them in the back here.
Yeah, you do, man. You do need them. That's funny because everybody always thinks that they're like rabid and all this kind of stuff. They don't get rabies. Their body temperature's too cold to get rabies. Snake venom don't hurt them. Matter of fact, I think that they might use possum blood to make anti-venom. I'm not positive on that one. Maybe I made that up, but yeah. So we got a homestead out here where we just try to live as off grid as we can. Try not to be, I want to detach from society, just detach from whatever is going on in the world as much as it can with how goofy things are. Right? Rarely do we know what goes into our food. Rarely do we know what goes into anything. I don't send my kids to public schools. They're homeschooled, so we're not in a part of any of that goofy ass stuff that they have going on at public school. And basically, the way I describe it is funny. I was talking to Kevin Smith, and basically, the way I could describe it is I'm like a modern day Ted Kaczynski without the fan mail, right? Just don't send out any of them letters. But I'm trying to live off grid. I'm trying to just detach from as much as I have to be tied in with social media and technology, right? Because that's just part of what I do. It's not my ideal situation.
Yeah, and it's good to be raising your kids like with minimal exposure to that type of thing too. Before I
Yeah.
got into the BKFC media, I didn't use social media either. I had a little page, showing. I'll send you my other page since you said your dad was growing out there in Humboldt. But yeah, other than that, I wasn't really a social media guy myself. I try to keep my daughter away from that type of thing too. But everyone's got phones, and kids, people are giving their kids tablets. It's an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then nowadays, obviously, we got these AI data centers coming in and everything like that. It's just going to end up taking over, and people are going to realize, as crazy as this might sound, when you say this, it kind of has a bit of a shock effect. But to say that Ted Kaczynski was right, that's the truth, man. Ted Kaczynski was right. He knew what was going to go on with all this technology that was just rushing forward. That you can no longer say no to any of it, right? It's just part of your life. These flock cameras, everything that you do is tracked. Everything, everywhere you go is tracked. Unless you completely choose to detach that aspect of society, and people are going like, well, "Why don't you have a phone? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" It's become the norm again, like you say, to give your kid a tablet. My kids don't have tablets. My kids
Yeah.
don't. People probably don't even know how to use the internet, and that's good though. That's what I want, right? We didn't even have cable for a long time. Matter of fact, I didn't even get the internet at my house until the Godoy fight. My family wanted to watch it, so we got the internet. We got Starlink for that. Before that, dude, we didn't even have internet. We didn't have cable, we didn't have internet, none of that at my house. So that was it.
Nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah, yeah. And so now it's just we're out there just like again raising our own animals, raising food. Right now we're raising got a bunch of meat chickens, meat turkeys, and we do all the butchering. We do all the butchering. I do have a gentleman, Matt Shaw. Shout out to Matt Shaw and his butchering company. He comes out sometimes and he'll take it. He sponsored me for some fights. He'll take care of animals for me as well. So we've obviously I don't eat pork unless I raise it. Right, I'm real big on that. I'm not a big fan of pork. Pig produces nothing. The pig is just a scavenger and only eats. But if I raise the animal myself, I will eat it because I know exactly what goes into it. But I'm not going to eat any pork from the store. We've raised beef, goats, sheep. We've raised a lot of sheep and obviously tons of chickens right now too. Eat a lot of eggs. And my wife cans all the time. She bakes, right? Sourdough, bread, all this kind of stuff. So that's what we do.
Yeah, that's the way to go about it, man. That's the way to go about it. I don't eat pork either, and
Good.
I don't have chickens, but I try to buy the most expensive pasteurized eggs I can find.
Yeah,
But yeah, my wife's a baker too. She's on the sourdough kick. But yeah,
good.
you really got to watch out, like that's what we talked about is like pretty much what you're doing. Is that's what we should be
Yeah.
doing, raising our own animals. Like we got some fruits and stuff in the backyard, but yeah, you got to get your meat from the butcher and yeah, cuz you can't anything in a package is pretty much fucked.
It's just poison nowadays, right? And generally
Yeah.
most people are so far removed and detached from what it takes just to do any of this kind of stuff, right? Most people couldn't plant a seed and grow a plant anymore, right? We're so far detached that people's just used to, oh, I go to the store to get everything or to raise an animal. And then not only that, somebody might be able to, let's say they do raise an animal, are they willing to take that animal's life? They're willing to eat the animal, right? But they don't want to have to do what's required. And I am. I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? But I understand it's a blessing, right? We always feel so blessed when even when one of our chickens, like just a egg laying chicken, passes away, right? Or something happens, we always feel just send it off with just a blessing for the fact of what this animal offered our family, right? We say a blessing every night at dinner as well. And one of the things, the last part of the blessing is bless the animal it came from and the hands that prepared it. Because most of the stuff we do is an animal product. We're by no means vegans. Obviously, we got muscles. We're killing it out here. But you know, most people don't know how to do any of this kind of stuff to barely take care of themselves. And yeah, I don't know, but what a blessing it is to have learned this kind of stuff. It's a blessing to be able to be self-sufficient, be responsible for yourself, take responsibility for your own life and what you have going on, right? I don't want to rely on anybody else. Period.
Amen, brother. And blessings to you
Yeah.
and your family. And
Yeah,
blessings.
you as well.
I appreciate you doing this. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Is there any sponsors you want to shout out today?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've got to even wrote this down here. Obviously, my family first and foremost. Lou, Rambo, Callan, all my family. I love you guys. The Martin family, Shannon and Leah Martin, have been fantastic to me. If it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be in the position with the BKFC that I am. They're the ones that sent me out to the tryouts. Right when it came down and that tryout popped up, I was telling them about it, and they're like, "You have to go. We'll pay for you to go." And they paid for me to go out there. So that's wonderful. All my crew at WKX Surrey up in Canada, my team up in Canada, all the Johnsey family, team at WKX here in California. This is the gym that we opened up here. Johnson Wealth Management, they helped sponsor me for this fight here. All In Tattoo and Art Collective. My buddy Jose, to the shop right there, he takes care of me. He puts all new ink on me, keeping me looking fresh for each fight. Blades Barbershop. Matter of fact, Blades, I got to go get a haircut here in a minute. They're a barbershop right across the street here. My man Roman over at Blades always take care of me. And Shelton's Auto Lube. Those are my sponsors for this fight. Those are a lot of my sponsors that just take care of me locally and everything that's going on.
Ryu, thank you so much for doing this, brother. It's been a pleasure. Pleasure watching you
Hey,
fight, covering you. I can't wait to see you again, man. Hopefully somewhere overseas. Hopefully somewhere soon. You're averaging, I
yeah.
think you're about 2 fights a year. Is that where you like it?
You know what? I had in 2024, I had four in a fiscal year, and that was awesome. That was
Okay.
awesome. That was great. That kept me busy, right? That kept me active. And here's the thing too, I'm looking at is I don't think I'm the genetic freak that Yoel Romero is. I don't imagine I'm doing this until 49. So hey, I'm pedal to the metal, bro. I feel good. My hands are good, right? No injuries, stitches. I got a hell of a scar right here, but stitches are all out. I got maybe a little bit of black eye left, but other than that, man, I'm golden. So I'm pretty well ready to rock.
I appreciate you spending the time, brother. God bless.